Episode 4 and action.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the 4th episode of Sip and Say. My guest here is Zadia Davis, and today we're going to talk about special education. First, can you tell us what interests you becoming a special educator?
Yeah, so for me, I think it started around high school, 9th through 10th grade. I took a course and I was responsible for working with the special needs students in this self-contained classroom,
Right.
meaning that they stayed in this classroom all day. And I went in there for one block and I was able to create different activities for them to do. The teacher in that room had activities that I would pull and we would do it with them. We went on field trips with the students, just pretty much took care of them, bonded with them, helped them with their social skills, just all around the board. We just helped them out in general. And I think initially that's what sparked my interest.
And I used to look at her through the window at West Florence, so a couple times. I don't even know if she remembered that, but she used to do very well with that stuff, and I always knew that she was going to do well with this. Well, and today, you're doing it today. Can you explain what you do and what a typical day is like?
Right, so what I do now is I'm a self-contained teacher for grades 7 through 12, meaning I teach 3 different subjects. I teach reading, social studies, and math.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so a typical day for me is my students, they usually have their elective in the morning, so I use that time to plan and get myself together.
Right.
And then once they return to me, we start off doing social studies, and then we'll have lunch, and then once they return from lunch, we'll do reading and math.
So what are the challenges you face throughout the day?
I think for me, one of my biggest challenges is having to teach 3 different subjects.
Oh, that's
So
tough.
yeah, as I said, I can have a student anywhere from 7th to 12th grade.
Oh, man.
So,
Right.
when we're doing social studies, I'm looking at a 7th grade curriculum versus a student that's in the 10th grade. So just trying to manage all of that for 3 different subjects, it's a lot.
You mentioned that you teach 3 different subjects. Can you tell us the learning techniques that you find to be helpful?
Right, so one learning technique that I like to do is I focus on, or a technique that I like to use is just focusing on the different learning styles.
Oh, yeah.
Every student can't sit and get, they can't just sit there and talk to them and explain them to understand. So I may have a PowerPoint to go along with my lesson. I may have a video to go along with my lesson. I may have dance moves to go along with my lesson. We may come up,
jerking.
right? We may come up with a rap in the classroom. It just depends on what we're doing.
Right.
So yeah, they love TikTok and stuff. So I try to use like things that are trendy, things that are in.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
That's
and try to
cool.
incorporate it into my lesson because I don't like to be bored myself.
Right.
So, if I know I could sit there and listen to myself talk for 20, 30 minutes at a time, I can't expect them to do that. So,
I used to hate that too.
yeah, I try to do a lot of different movements. I try to stay relatable,
Right.
which is easier for me because I am younger, so I do know what's in. I have
Wow.
a younger sister in high school, so she
Wow.
keeps me updated.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, I try to keep up with all of that stuff and just be culturally relevant too.
So what disabilities are you familiar with and knowledgeable about?
So with me, I would say between just student teaching, my high school experience, I've been exposed to autism, learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and emotional and behavioral disabilities.
So with those disabilities, what is the key to being a successful special educator?
Well, I say in general, just the key to being a successful teacher, special educator, anyone working with children is building relationships.
Is that the top key in your opinion?
For me, yes. In my opinion, that is definitely the top because before you can teach a student, they need to know that you care about them first and foremost. Before we get into any curriculum, read any book, they need to know she's here for me, she's on my side, we're a team, and she cares about me.
That's how I used to feel in high school and definitely college, because in college, I don't know if the professors cared about me like I thought they did.
I'm telling you.
What other top keys do you believe that special educators should possess?
So I would say outside of developing relationships is to just show compassion. Sometimes we forget that young adults and students are able to have bad days. We all have bad days. As teachers, we don't know what that student had to go through to make it to school. You know, some students may have to wake up early and get their younger siblings dressed. You know, we just don't know. We can't assume. So just be a good human and just show compassion, because they have feelings as well. I would say choose your battles wisely. I've definitely learned that, and to not engage in power struggles.
Okay.
Because you have some students where if you tell them to do something, they're like, okay, and you know, that's the end of that. And you have some students, they want to have a sense of control.
Right.
You know, they want to say, I'm doing this because I chose to do this, not because you're telling me to do this.
Right.
So I usually give my students options whenever I can. Of course, some things are non-negotiable. But for example, like if I have a student in a power struggle, and sometimes it's simple stuff. Like, okay, I have a blue pencil and a black pencil.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I want you to use one of these pencils to do your work.
Okay.
But I'm going to give you the option of which pencil you would like to use to do your work.
Okay.
So I mean, little options and choices like that kind of gives the students a sense of control. You know, I'm controlling my own learning. So I definitely try to offer choices when I can. And then lastly, I would say to be very flexible.
Right.
As a teacher, as any teacher, you have to be flexible. Especially a special educator. Our paperwork is constantly changing. We're constantly having, you know, new policies and new procedures and things to think about.
Right.
A lot of times I'll make lessons and I'm home, I'm like, all right, this is a good lesson.
Oh,
and I get in class and like they don't get it, or I didn't execute it the way that I planned to. So in that moment, I have to be flexible and you know, just readjust, rethink it, and you know, just come up with something different. You can't be stuck in your ways. You have to be flexible.
That's true.
And also with this summer, I taught summer school.
Nice.
I'm working with a different population of students than what I'm used to working with. So with them, I had to be flexible. I had to do my research. I had to adjust. I had to prepare myself to teach them in the way that they can best learn, because once again, these aren't students that I typically work with. So just, you know, it's always changing, and you have to constantly be changing as well.
So you mentioned summer school, and obviously school is about to come up. It's now, I don't know what month it is, July. So school is supposed to start next month.
Right.
How do you think the coronavirus has affected the way students will learn? All students in general.
Right. I don't know. It's very, very, very hard to say. I am unsure about how things will work.
Right.
I'm unsure about the policies we may have in place. I do know it's going to look different with the social distance guidelines and different things like that. But I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see for myself, because I'm anxious and nervous and I'm tired of the unknown. So I can't wait to find out, but I have no clue.
I think it's going to be rough with especially kindergartners and first graders, pre-K, whatever, the younger children. We all used to get together when we were younger, you know, in the circle to read a book or to do the ABCs of 1, 2, 3. So I'm very interested into how we as a country even will adjust to that.
Right.
I think it's gonna be cool. I hate that it's happened, but I'm excited to see as well.
Yeah.
You've been a special educated teacher since January, yeah? So what are the top 5 things you've learned since you've become a teacher?
First, I would say with anything, to make sure that you manage your time.
Right.
Secondly, it's important to check on your students. So each day, each morning, we do a bell ringer, and the bell ringer isn't related to anything. It's not academic. So it may say, if you had to create a sandwich, what would you name it?
Oh, nice.
And what would you put on it? Like, it's things that have nothing to do with pretty much, you know, they don't have anything to do with anything, but that's the way I get to learn about my students.
Oh, nice.
Or I may say, rate how this week is going for you, 1 to 5.
Oh, nice.
You know, if a kid says this week was a 1, okay, that might be a student that might needs a little extra attention, a little extra love this week. Maybe they had a hard week. So it kind of helps me gauge how they're feeling and who needs a little bit more, you know. And most importantly, at the end, they get up and they can share it if they want to. if they want to. Yeah. So it builds our classroom community as well, because it allows other students to show compassion for that person who may say their week is a 1, their day is a 1.
Right.
So it definitely helps build our classroom community. So yeah, definitely check on the students. Have patience. You have to be patient.
Right.
You have to be patient. Every student learns at a different pace. Some students may grab on quicker. It may take some students longer to grasp on certain things. So just be patient, and everything will, fall in place and happen when it's supposed to.
Right.
And with being patient, I've learned different techniques and strategies to use in my classroom. Because it's like, okay, this kid, I taught it this way, they're still not getting it. Right. So it's causing me to go a little deeper into what I'm doing and say, okay, well, let's try this. All right, let's try this, until finally, something, I get a breakthrough with that student.
Right.
So definitely be patient. Have a home and work balance.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still learning that now, because as a teacher, it's always work that needs to be done.
Right.
Today I can plan for tomorrow, I could plan for next week, I could plan for next month, I can plan for the rest of the 9 weeks. There's always going to be something to do.
Right.
But it's important to take a step back and say, you know what? 7 o'clock is my cutoff time. After that is me time. Right. So it's important to do that. I'm still trying to find that balance. It's a little harder starting off, but eventually I'll get there, working towards it. And lastly, I would say to have fun. We have a lot of fun in my classroom. We basically have a little community in our classroom.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So we have our community, and we celebrate small victories. So when a student does something, we all partake in celebrating them. It can be something small, but just to let each other know that we care about each other. We're in the classroom with each other all day, so why not make the best of it? Why not get along?
Wow, thank you so much, Zadia. This video was very informational. I've learned a lot of things since I've conversed with Zadia, and I really do truly hope that you all have learned as much as I have learned. Oh Lord, excuse me. Now, Zadia, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would say to educate yourself. And you can do this by doing your own research. If you have someone that you can ask questions to, you can reach out to a special educator in your community. You can reach out to a parent of a student with a disability that you may know about. But yeah, just reach out, ask questions, look it up. Just educate yourself in general. I would also say it's important to not stereotype. There's a saying, if you met one student with autism, then you met one student with autism. Right. Meaning, just because you met that one person with a disability doesn't mean that everyone with that disability is going to be the same. Right. Same thing as siblings. You can have the same mom and dad, but two siblings that are like night and day. Although some disabilities may have a lot of commonalities. Right. The students can be very different. Right. So, make sure you keep that in mind. Don't stereotype everybody into this one group. And that'll come once you, once again, educate yourself a little bit more. Right. Yeah, and lastly, I think it's important to advocate for all disabilities. I agree. So oftentimes we advocate for our students K through 12. Okay. But we have to think about our students. Once they graduate high school, their disability doesn't just leave them. Right. They still have that disability. We still need to advocate for them. We still need to stand in the gaps for them and speak up for the ones who may not be able to speak up for themselves.
Thank you again, Zadia. That's very informational.
Thank you for having me.
And I really have enjoyed this segment. It's been a wild one, just for the mere fact I've learned so much about special education. I think it's special in its own way. Please tune in next week to chat with mi amiga Liliana. And we're going to discuss what it's like to be Latina and Americano. Wink, wink. And always, ciao.
Ciao.
Beijing.